Reid underwent a 7-hour heart transplant surgery in 2025 after spending just 9 days on the transplant waiting list, and this rapid progression from dismissing fatigue as getting older to emergency life or death surgery reveals how 6.7 million American adults currently live with undiagnosed heart failure, while 80% of cardiac events remain preventable through early medical screening. Reid revealed the transplant on Good Morning America on February 5th, 2026 at age 61. Reid is best known as one half of Kid and Play, the hip-hop duo that dominated late 1980s and early 1990s culture through music and the House Party film franchise. Today, we're breaking down the exact timeline from Reid's first symptoms to emergency transplant, the specific medical findings that escalated Reid from outpatient care to the transplant list in 3 weeks, and the statistics showing why Reid's "I'm just getting older" assumption nearly killed Reid before doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center intervened. Let's start with the symptoms Reid ignored. Section 1. The symptoms Reid dismissed: fatigue, breathlessness, sleep. Christopher Reid experienced 3 specific symptoms before seeking medical care: fatigue, shortness of breath, and increased need for sleep. Reid denied to interpret these symptoms as medical emergencies. Reid assumed the symptoms resulted from aging and decades of touring. Reid told Good Morning America, "I think sometimes you kind of just chalk it up to, I'm getting older, the road is harsh." This assumption that fatigue equals normal aging is the exact thought pattern that delays cardiac diagnosis in millions of Americans annually. Reid continued performing. Reid continued touring. Reid continued dismissing the warning signs his body was sending. By summer 2025, the symptoms worsened enough that Christopher Reid went to the emergency room. That emergency room visit at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles changed everything. Section 2, the Cedars-Sinai diagnosis: congestive heart failure. At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, doctors diagnosed Christopher Reid with congestive heart failure during the summer 2025 emergency room visit. Congestive heart failure means Reid's heart could no longer pump blood effectively enough to meet Reid's body's oxygen and nutrient needs. Congestive heart failure is a chronic progressive condition that, in advanced stages, damages other organs when the heart cannot maintain adequate circulation. Visual note: heart failure medical diagram. Reid returned to Cedars-Sinai for a follow-up appointment approximately 3 weeks after the initial diagnosis. During that follow-up visit, cardiologist Dr. Erica Jones noticed unusual swelling in Reid's body. Dr. Jones ordered additional testing. The test showed Christopher Reid's heart failure was beginning to impact other organs beyond the heart itself. This finding escalated the situation from serious to life-threatening. Dr. Laura DiCiacchio, the cardiothoracic surgeon who later performed Reid's transplant, described the situation as a kind of life or death situation. Reid's medical team determined that medication alone would not save Reid's life. The team made the decision to place Christopher Reid on the heart transplant waiting list and prioritize Reid as a high-risk patient requiring urgent placement. Section 3, the 9-day wait from transplant list to surgery. Heart transplant waiting times vary dramatically. Some patients wait months. Some patients wait years. Some patients die before a compatible donor heart becomes available. Christopher Reid spent approximately 8 to 9 days on the transplant waiting list before doctors found a compatible donor heart. Once Cedars-Sinai secured a match, Reid underwent heart transplant surgery. The procedure lasted approximately 7 hours. Surgeons removed Reid's failing heart and replaced the failing heart with a donor heart from a deceased organ donor. The 7-hour surgery gave Christopher Reid a chance at survival that would not have existed without organ donation and the donor's family choosing to donate their loved one's heart. Reid later reflected on how quickly everything happened. Reid told interviewers the timeline from dismissing symptoms to waking up with a new heart felt surreal. Section 4, recovery and the message: 6.7 million Americans with heart failure. Heart transplant recovery requires close medical monitoring, immunosuppressive medication to prevent organ rejection, and gradual physical rehabilitation over months. Christopher Reid has not shared every medical detail publicly, but Reid confirmed he is recovering and feeling renewed about life. Reid described his post-transplant perspective. This thing is a beautiful life, it's great, and, I want to be around for it. Rather than keeping the experience private, Christopher Reid chose to speak openly about what happened. Reid's goal was not sympathy. Reid's goal was awareness. Reid emphasized during Good Morning America interviews how easily people walk around with serious heart disease without knowing. Reid stated, "A lot of people be walking around with heart disease because they don't go to the doctor. Sometimes we too busy just hustling." Here's the contrarian data point most people ignore. According to the February 5th, 2026 Good Morning America segment, approximately 6.7 million adults aged 20 and older in the United States currently live with heart failure. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in the United States as of 2026, and roughly 80% of cardiac events are considered potentially preventable through lifestyle modifications and regular medical screenings. Section 5, the prevention message, reaching underserved communities. Christopher Reid has specifically highlighted the importance of reaching people who feel hesitant about seeking medical care. Reid has spoken about encouraging people of color and underserved communities to prioritize regular checkups and early cardiac testing. Reid's message is direct. Don't assume symptoms are normal aging. Don't assume you're too busy to see a doctor. Don't wait until a situation becomes a life or death emergency, requiring a 7-hour heart transplant surgery. Beyond recovery messaging, Christopher Reid is already planning future projects. Reid confirmed he is working on a new comedy special. Reid is planning Kid and Play tour dates. And Reid is writing a book titled Heart of the Matter about the transplant experience and cardiac health awareness. These projects reflect something important about how Reid views himself post-transplant. Christopher Reid does not see himself as defined by illness. Reid sees himself as someone who survived illness and now has a platform to prevent others from reaching the same emergency. Section 6, the donor reality and public reaction. There has been no controversy surrounding Christopher Reid's transplant. Public reaction has focused on support, relief, and appreciation for Reid's openness about the experience. For fans who grew up watching House Party or listening to Kid and Play records in the late 1980s and early 1990s, seeing Christopher Reid alive and planning future projects connects nostalgia with mortality. The artists people grew up with are now navigating aging, cardiac disease, and survival in real time. But Reid's survival story also depends on one critical element most news coverage overlooks: an anonymous organ donor, and that donor's family chose to donate the donor's heart after the donor's death. Without that donor, Christopher Reid would have died waiting. Without organ donation infrastructure, the 9-day wait would have meant nothing. Without surgeons like Dr. Laura DiCiacchio at Cedars-Sinai performing 7-hour transplant surgeries, medical diagnosis alone cannot save lives. Reid's survival required Reid going to the hospital, doctors correctly diagnosing congestive heart failure, Reid following up 3 weeks later, Dr. Erica Jones noticing the unusual swelling, testing showing multi-organ impact, immediate transplant list placement, a compatible donor dying and the family choosing donation, and a 7-hour surgery performed successfully. Every single step in that chain had to happen. Missing one step means Christopher Reid dies. Christopher Reid went from dismissing fatigue as normal aging to receiving a life-saving heart transplant in approximately 3 months during summer and fall 2025. Reid spent just 9 days on the transplant waiting list before receiving a compatible donor heart. Reid underwent 7 hours of surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Reid survived. But Reid's survival story reveals the broader reality affecting 6.7 million American adults living with heart failure as of 2026. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in the United States. 80% of cardiac events are considered preventable through lifestyle changes and regular medical screening. Christopher Reid assumed fatigue meant getting older. Reid assumed shortness of breath meant the road was harsh. Reid assumed increased sleep needs were normal for someone in their early 60s after decades of performing. Reid was wrong. The symptoms meant congestive heart failure. The symptoms meant multi-organ impact. The symptoms meant Christopher Reid needed a new heart to survive. Reid's message is simple and data-backed. Go to the doctor. Don't dismiss symptoms as normal aging. Don't assume you're too busy to get checked. The difference between a close call and a tragedy is often just showing up for the appointment. Christopher Reid is now 61 years old, recovering from a heart transplant, planning kid and play tour dates, writing a book called Heart of the Matter, and working on a new comedy special. Reid is using the second chance from an anonymous donor's gift to raise awareness about cardiac health, early screening, and preventable death. The story isn't just about a celebrity health scare. The story is about how easily 6.7 million Americans walk around with heart disease they don't know they have, and how Christopher Reid almost became one more preventable death statistic before doctors at Cedars-Sinai intervened with 9 days to spare. Reid survived. But Reid's survival required going to the hospital in summer 2025 instead of continuing to ignore the fatigue, breathlessness, and increased sleep. That choice, going to the emergency room, made all the difference.